what happened at that point in time would have been accompanied by uh, a liquidity squeeze, a market event like 2008,
Mhm.
it would have been game over. If you would have seen credit restricted in the futures market against good delivery failures uh, in the cash market, it would have been game over. To my knowledge, there is no major fabricator that is experiencing delivery failures. The supplies of industrial grade silver and silver alloys relative to the industrial demand is very much intact. That's still a very robust market.
As 2025 begins, the silver market carries signs of mounting stress in the global physical market from the close of 2024. Multiple indicators point to this growing tension. Silver lease rates for 2-month and 3-month tenors spiked sharply after an unusual drawdown in the final months of 2024, despite the year recording a historic net deficit in physical silver. These surging lease rates signal a shortage of available metal. In 2021, the silver market experienced a phenomenon widely known as the silver squeeze. RickRule, who had unique insights into the market through his involvement with the PSLV trust, reflected on how close the market came to breaking and whether such an event could happen again. Rule highlighted that the notion of a silver squeeze is built on the assumption of a fair market structure for silver, which he considers fundamentally flawed. A recent report from the International Energy Agency, IEA, highlights that global investment in solar PV manufacturing, a key driver of silver demand, surged to approximately $80 billion last year, representing nearly 40% of total global investment in clean technology manufacturing. The rule also clarified that precious metals markets are fundamentally intact. Historically, precious metals bull markets begin with gold driven by fear-based buying, eventually setting the narrative for silver to take the lead. While he cannot predict the timing, Rule confidently stated that the question is not if, but when, silver will experience significant upward momentum. We're about to explore the video, but first, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to keep up with our newest uploads. Your feedback in the comments is always appreciated.
What happened at that point in time would have been accompanied by uh, a liquidity squeeze, a market event like 2008,
Mhm.
it would have been game over. If you would have seen credit restricted in the futures market against good delivery failures uh, in the cash market, it would have been game over. Now, understand that you wouldn't have had a short squeeze like you have in a fair market. The LBMA would have declared something called force majeure, and they wouldn't have demanded settlement in silver. They would have cash settled. And the exchange, would have determined the cash settlement price, just like they did in the tin market. So part of the premise around the silver squeeze, which suggests that we had a fair market in silver, that the exchange isn't controlled by the dealers in the exchange, is false. That notwithstanding, people would have made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Understand, too, that the failure to deliver didn't reflect overall physical inventories in the silver market. It involved good delivery, silver, the silver that is the stuff of the paper futures, and the inventory that is required for responsible investment vehicles like Sprott Physical Silver. Over time, if institutional demand and retail demand for silver continues, what you will see is a dishoarding of informal silver, uh, silver held by living, breathing human beings in the Middle East and in South Asia, and the reintroduction of that silver into the formal system, provided it doesn't happen all at once, provided it happens over time. Uh, and I think that this process probably accelerates. You're seeing a conversion of informal silver to formal silver in China, as an example. Uh, I think really the possibility for a cataclysmic break really has to do with how rapidly the market would be challenged. We were a catalyst that challenged that market, Chris. And to be honest with you, a fairly small catalyst. The fact that $1.5 billion or $2 billion in net buying had that dramatic an impact on the physical good delivery silver market let me know just how leveraged the futures market was. To my knowledge, there is no major fabricator that is experiencing delivery failures. The supplies of industrial grade silver and silver alloys relative to the industrial demand is very much intact. That's still a very robust market. Uh, I think that you're seeing leakage from retail holders because retail holders are bored. They don't need it to make mirrors. Uh, And I suspect until you have seen sufficient momentum established by the gold market that generalist money comes in the silver space, that circumstance continues. It will continue until it doesn't. I realize that doesn't make a very good internet headline, for a video, but that doesn't matter much. Your viewers need to understand that precious metals markets are very much intact, that traditionally a precious metals bull market has the momentum established by the fear buyer, the gold buyer. And at some point in time, when the narrative establishes itself, either because of news flow or some other reason, that silver replaces gold as market leaders. I don't know where we are in the market. Nobody else does either, although some people pretend to know. I just know that this is a question where the answer begins with when, not if. Yeah. And if that answer isn't sufficient, people should do something else with their money.
Miners continue to encounter substantial difficulties in discovering new silver deposits, intensifying the structural supply deficit in the market. This persistent combination of strong industrial demand and limited supply highlights silver's potential to outperform gold in the coming years, particularly as global interest in renewable energy surges. Adding to the stress reflected in the sharp increase in silver lease rates is the unexpected spike in CME COMEX silver deliveries in December, reaching 45.8 million ounces. These deliveries encompass both local New York transactions and exchange for physical EFP arrangements, where NY COMEX contracts are transferred for delivery in London. RickRule elaborated that although substantial silver exists globally, much of it, such as privately owned silver in India, isn't in good delivery form. The Sprott Physical Silver Trust could only purchase silver in LBMA or COMEX good delivery form. He believed the advocates of the silver squeeze were onto something, but had unrealistic expectations about the timeline for addressing these imbalances. Now, let's redirect our attention to a video.
I had anticipated that the silver market was broad enough that it could accommodate our demand in almost any size. And while the silver market is very, very, very broad, the silver market was then, and I would suggest is today, much more liquid, or much less liquid than you believe. While there's a lot of supply in places like private ownership by the Indian peasantry, that isn't good delivery silver. And in the case of the Sprott Physical Trust, we could only buy silver that was, in the LBME or in the COMEX good delivery form.
Right.
And we were having days when there was $50 million of inflow into our physical silver trust. No problem, says Rick. We clean out Toronto. Okay. We go to Montreal. We clean out Montreal. Interesting. Well, no problem. We go to Chicago. We clean out Chicago. This is becoming concerning. The market's front running us. We go to New York. We clean out New York. It turned out that London was ultimately able to accommodate us. But London wasn't able to accommodate us overnight, which is what we were used to. We were used to buying silver and having the silver go from somebody else's pile in a vault, right, through a screen to our pile in a vault. What happened was that we cleaned out all the piles until we ran into the final piles in London and Zurich, which accommodated us. I actually think that the young adherents to the silver squeeze were onto something. I think their problem was that they bought a long-term narrative and they took in short-term tactics. I actually believe that there are imbalances in the silver market, in particular between the physical market and the paper market. And that's what we ran into. There's tons of silver that trades every day in the physical market. Some days, 100 times more silver transacts in the paper market than exists for good delivery in the physicals market. It was our bad fortune to run into that, literally. Chris said, we got through it, but it contributed to my baldness.
Oh, you still look good. You got plenty up there.
But I think that the people who were interested in the arithmetic around the silver squeeze didn't understand that they needed to be persistent and tenacious. In other words, that the unraveling of the dichotomy between the physical market and the paper market could take 5 years to unwrap. And many of the youngsters who were involved in the silver squeeze had a much more limited time frame. They wanted it to happen in 5 weeks or 6 weeks. And I suspect that many of them employed much too much margin. If you're paying margin interest for 5 years, if the event that you're hoping to participate in takes 5 years and you're paying 8% a year, you might not be early. You might be wrong.
Yeah.
If you're an interest payer. And I think that's what some of the youngsters in the silver squeeze ran into.
The silver market is navigating a period of heightened tension marked by increasing industrial demand, constrained supply, and rising lease rates. These challenges are compounded by significant delivery volumes, highlighting the market's delicate balance. With miners struggling to discover new deposits and global interest in renewable energy driving demand, silver's strategic importance continues to grow. These dynamics suggest a promising outlook for silver, positioning it as a vital asset in an evolving economic landscape and underscoring its potential for long-term outperformance. With silver facing strong industrial demand and constrained supply, could it outperform gold in the coming years? Join the conversation, share your thoughts in the comments, give us a thumbs up if you found value in this video, and subscribe to stay engaged with our community.